Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to ask question number 132 of 2017 as it appears under my name in the order paper. And my question is to the Attorney General and the Minister for Economy, Public Enterprises, Civil Service and Communications. And the question is, the 2017-2018 National Budget High School and University Students Consultations have been progressing well. Can the Minister brief this House on what are some key issues highlighted in these discussions and how will the Ministry hope to tackle them? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The floor to the Honourable Attorney General and Minister for Economy, Public Enterprise, Civil Service and Communications.
Point of order. Just point of order, Madam, just to clarify, because this particular question, probably it will be more relevant if this could be addressed in the Honourable Minister for Economy's budget speech. And probably this question is arising from the budget consultation.
Thank you. This question has been approved by the Business Committee to be tabled in today's sitting and we will comply. Thank you. I give the floor to the Honourable Attorney General, Minister for Economy, Public Enterprise, Civil Service and Communications.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's interesting, Honourable Wuli Tabu, Madam Speaker, is raising a point of order on this when he was actually in the Business Committee meeting. Maybe he's following the leader of his party who sits outside this Parliament, who actually made a comment when we said that we'll be having public consultations, in particular school consultations, and he had said that there was no need for it. And this is the very same people who talk about participation of the ordinary Fijians in the governmental process. And Madam Speaker, this is precisely what this public consultation, particularly with schools and university students, is doing. It's hearing from the ordinary men and women, in particular the young people of our country, as to what they would like in the budget, what sort of issues that they have regarding the budget, and also in order to also educate them precisely as to what the budgetary process is, how it functions, and what actually happens in practical terms. Madam Speaker, it was also interesting that, this is an aside, that one former trade unionist said, what will the ordinary man learn from going to these consultations? What will he gain, Obviously, he forgets the fact that through these consultations, we are hearing from members of the public. Obviously, from these consultations, we get people to understand when somebody stands up in this Parliament and says, debt to GDP ratio, foreign reserves, they're able to actually understand what it means in a very tangible manner. Madam Speaker, the government last year started, in the public consultation process, started consulting schools. We had 3 locations last year in Lambasa, Natambua High School and Suva Grammar School, Lambasa College, where we had consultation with schools. Given the overwhelming response last year, Madam Speaker, we decided to have consultations with all the schools in all the different districts. And so far, Madam Speaker, we've had consultations in, as far as the schools are concerned, we've had consultations in Suva, in Navua, Vashist Muni School, Suva Grammar School. We had consultations in Nasori with all the schools in the Taliwaneta Siri area, consultations in Singatoka Methodist, Vashist Muni, Sri Vivekanand College, Natambua High School and Xavier College. And we'll be again going out into schools later on in the next few weeks, where we'll be attending in Montfort Technical Institute, Lambasa College, and also in Sabu Sabu. Madam Speaker, we've also had, we are going to have for the first time also consultations with the universities. So we'll be going to the FNU campus in Natambua, FNU campus in Samambula, FNU campus in Nasinu, University of Fiji Savani campus, and the USP Lodala campus in the month of May, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the participation have been very, very good. In fact, the numbers have been very good. We've had actually a few hundred students attend each of these consultations, very large. Of course, you cannot believe everything that the Fiji Times says. They've been saying consultations. In the public consultations, they've been very low. In fact, there's an article here. That's why we keep on calling them the OT, the Opposition Times. They said nobody had turned up in Tavua for the public consultations, when factually it was incorrect. And they said that very few people attended the one in Rakiraki. Madam Speaker, the various issues that have been raised during these consultations by the students, we found a number of issues that are cross-cutting in all the different locations. A major concern, problems about the school bus services that's provided by the school bus companies. They're saying that a lot of the bus companies, through their drivers, are refusing to take students. They're refusing to take students after particular hours. They're refusing to take students sometimes when the buses are full. they bring always generally for the school trips, they bring the sort of most substandard bus for the school bus services, and they use the better buses or for the other public services. That was very, highlighted very, very strongly by all the students. We spend, Madam Speaker, $21 million a year in subsidizing school travel. And of course the bus companies benefit from that. Madam Speaker, the other issue that has been raised, that firstly all the students in all the locations said that they loved the idea of the consultations, that they felt that it gave them a very good understanding about the budgetary process, about the terminologies that are being used in Parliament. They said that they want more of it. It really empowered them. We had, for example, in Basis Muni School in Navua, with schools coming up from the upper reaches of Namosi, people actually travel hours. So all of these schools, Madam Speaker, is not just we had Suva Grammar students. There was something like 25 schools that actually attended the Suva Grammar, 27 schools that attended the Suva Grammar consultations. We had 25 schools in Nasori. We had 8 schools in Basis Muni, Singatoga Methodist had 12 schools, Swami Vivekananda College had 9 schools, Natambua 11 schools, Xavier had 9 schools also, Madam Speaker. We'll be going out next few weeks to Penang, as we said, Tabua College, Lambasa College, Montfort Technical Institute in Sabu Sabu. The other issue that was also raised by the students, Madam Speaker, there's a lot of queries in respect of TELs and toppers. There was a lot of misinformation out there. We clarified a lot of the issues. There were some matters that were brought to our attention. One of them in particular, we've already had discussion with the Minister for Education in this respect, that there are certain courses that are now available at FNU, in particular in the engineering area, where you don't actually need to do year 13. You can actually do year 12 and go straight to the FNU. But they are not entitled to TELs. So they are saying that, obviously they're missing out. So they're being forced to do year 13, only then can they get TELs. So these are some of the issues that we've been discussing and how we can streamline that and actually address that, Madam Speaker. Some of the other issues that was discussed was also the need for having professional counsellors in schools. What was really interesting, Madam Speaker, as we've highlighted under the Toppers scheme, most of the Toppers positions or the scholarships are given in the area of science, including areas such as psychology, because there's a shortage of people, trained people in that area. In nearly all the schools they said we want professional counsellors, and the moment then when we asked them, they said, how many of you when you finish school will want to become a professional counsellor? In most of the schools none of them said yes. So there is in fact, Madam Speaker, not a huge uptake on people wanting to see counselling as a professional career for themselves. People see the need for it, but nobody wants to see it as a specific career path. So there is a disconnectivity between the need and people wanting to actually supply to that particular market. So we discussed a lot of that. And of course there's a need for professional counsellors. A lot of the teachers, as we find in many of the schools, are actually doubling up as counsellors, who sometimes may not necessarily have the skill sets, but precisely for the reason because there's not enough professional trained people. There's also, depending on the districts, we had some schools, for example, lack some basic amenities. There's one particular school that doesn't actually have electricity. So we talked about how we can get them access to electricity. We talked about how to expand the government telecentres. Because as you know, the government started, which was opened by the Honourable Prime Minister 2-3 years ago, where we started up these telecentres. And we need some more schools want to be part of the telecentre program, and we're looking at the expansion of that. The other issue, Madam Speaker, that was also raised was about getting more science teachers. We've had some discussions on that, about getting more science and mathematics teachers. Whilst there is currently there is a fulfillment of the demand, but people want more experienced people. As you know, many years ago we had people who were teaching in high schools who had masters, who were teaching in high schools. I mean, many of us in this Parliament would have attended high schools where people actually had done masters or even PhDs who were teaching in high schools. We are having discussions with the Ministry of Education as to how we can actually incentivize that. As part of the job evaluation exercise, Madam Speaker, as you know, the remuneration exercise, one of the areas that we are looking at as to how to increase the remuneration is if we have better qualified civil servants. So the higher level of qualifications they get, the better rewarded they get. So there is actually an incentive. And as we've said that we are reviewing all the salaries, and this is very much part and parcel of that. The other thing, Madam Speaker, is that the feedback we got quite commonly was The students were very happy with the open merit recruitment in the civil service. They said that they felt that all had a fair chance. A lot of them were very appreciative of the retirement age of 55. They believed that they would be given better opportunities to join the civil service in particular. The other point, of course, was that there was a general feedback that whilst there may be certain issues pertaining to TELS in terms of the administrative side of things, that the opportunities that are now being given to them are obviously quite enormous. We of course had some specific ones where certain schools that came from rural areas talked about various issues in their specific areas. They were specifically pertinent to them. For example, travelling times, for example, buses not coming on time, for example, flooding that they have faced for years that may have happened because if there was heavy rains, they weren't able to access their school. So these are the kind of issues that were addressed with us. We also talked about the rebuild of the schools because some of the students actually came from schools that have been damaged through Cyclone Winston. And we talked about the rebuild program, and they were of course very appreciative of that. There were other issues such as, for example, again wanting more footpaths and street lights. We've of course highlighted this in this Parliament last year in the budget, and it has been highlighted in the past couple of months that we'll be focusing a lot on those areas to get street lights and footpaths. In fact, rural street lighting has been very much appreciated. I'll probably stop there, but the last not least was the issue about getting better playing grounds, fields, sports fields, because some of the rural areas they don't actually have proper playing fields. And as we know that the government through the Ministry of Youth and Sports, as also through the Honourable Prime Minister's office, we are focusing on that. Some schools obviously want it quicker, but that was one of the issues that was highlighted by them. Madam Speaker, I would also like to say that through this process we'd like to encourage all Fijians. It's not only school students and university students, but the public consultations will still continue. Will finish around about the 19th of May. In fact, this weekend we are in Lambasa and Sabu-Sabu. But if anybody wants to make give their submissions, they simply type budget consultation at economy.gov.fj and they can give in the submissions. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Supplementary question, Honourable Bolitabu.
Question. One of the responses by some students in regards to salaries of ministers, in one of the responses in one of the session that was undertaken, and the answer that was given by the Honourable Minister for Economy was that it ministers needs to be paid well in order to minimize corruption. Can the Honourable Minister explain the logic behind that?
Yeah, you may have read that, I don't know whether in Fiji Times, but actually I was misquoted in that, and I'll answer that. It's very interesting, Madam Speaker. We've seen also some of the questions that Honourable Leader of Opposition, I think, tried to ask, and so the other questions that have been asked in the past couple of weeks. Obviously, they're getting a lot of feedback from the newspapers in respect of the consultations we're having. Yours is a classic example of that. You're citing something that you read because of these consultations. Madam Speaker, the question was asked. This is at Swami Vivekananda College in Nandi. A particular student asked the question. He cited 3 countries in which the ministers get very low salaries. And he said in these countries, these ministers and the Prime Minister get low salaries. So, and he said, but in Fiji, by comparison, the ministers are getting a higher salary. I said, well look, I can actually tell you, this is precisely what I said, this is from the horse's mouth. And I said, Madam Speaker, that there I can cite to him, I said, dozens and dozens of countries where ministers get paid far more than what we get paid. So that was the first thing that I highlighted. And I said to him that when you look at public accountability, when you look at good governance, for example, and I gave the example of police officers. I said, if you are paying a police officer, as police officers were being paid under the previous governments in this country, getting paid $6,000 or $7,000, when they are actually out on the streets, when they are actually going to book somebody, and the person driving, who gets pulled up, is driving a Pajero, the person driving the Pajero knows the police officer gets paid $6,000 or $7,000. The police officer don't interfere. The police officer has 4 or 5 children, they're at home watching television about advertisements on McDonald's. He wants to take his children to McDonald's. If the Pajero guy who's driving the car has been pulled up, he knows that he gets paid $6,000 to $7,000 a year, he's likely to offer him a bribe. And the police officer is likely to take, he can be tempted to take a bribe. This is why most countries, in countries for example like Singapore, and I use that as an example, people who are at the front end of enforcing the law, people at the border, immigration people, police people, customs, people who manage our tax collection, all of these people are paid a very competitive rate to ensure that those sorts of issues do not take place. Of course, Madam Speaker, we can talk about the salary the Leader of Opposition is now getting that the previous Leader of Opposition did not get. It's a very high salary. You see, this is where they try and concoct things. Very selective in the analysis. Extremely selective. You see, the moment I talked about the Leader of Opposition salary, they're saying that I'm being selective. The moment that I'm going to talk about the MPs, all of these MPs, their salaries, they're going to say I'm being selective. Because the salaries that the MPs used to receive previously was about $21,000 to $22,000. And guess how they made their money? They had select committees, or their committees are hearing or listening to a bill for 2 years, and used to pick on a daily basis the allowances. In fact, the allowances were more than the actual salaries. They're the kind of shenanigans that takes place. The reality is, Madam Speaker, is that when people come to this Parliament, you need to be able to get good caliber people. Not people who can't find a job anywhere else and they end up here. Madam Speaker, so that is precisely what I had said to them, and so you're obviously putting out of context, Madam Speaker. But it was very good. We actually appreciated that. And the student then came and discussed it with me afterwards. He said, you know, I wanted to raise this because some people are talking about this. We had a good discussion about it. But again, you see, Madam Speaker, these things have been blown out of proportion, but we welcome this kind of discussions because it actually opens up the thought processes and the ideas of people. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to the Honourable Samuel Awonibalu.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Supplementary question.
Supplementary question.
Are there any plan to have more consultations with these high schools and university students in the near future in terms of national budget? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think the Honourable Member, as highlighted, Honourable Member, the consultations will continue. Just to let you know, we have, as I said this weekend, we have the public consultations in Sabu-Sabu in Lambasa tomorrow. We then have school consultations on the 10th of May at Penang Sangam High School, where we actually expect, I'll tell you how many people we expect. In Penang, we expect 6 schools to come. In Tavua, which is on the same day in the afternoon, we're expecting 5 schools. These are all high schools. And then, of course, in we have the university consultation, the FNU Lautoka, on the 11th of May. In the morning, in the afternoon, we have 11th of May also University of Fiji, Saurani campus. And on the 12th of May, we have actually 3 consultations at USP Lodala campus in the morning. We don't know how many people will turn up. Hopefully a lot of them will turn up. 12th of May, again, from 12 to 2 is FNU Samambula campus. 12th of May, again, 3 to 5 p.m. FNU Nasinu campus. We then have public consultation in Korovo and Talivu North College. We have private sector consultation in Suva on the 16th of May. We then have 19th of May school consultation in Sabu-Sabu, Montfort Technical College. 19th of May school consultation in Lambasa at Lambasa College, and in that evening we have private sector consultation in Lambasa at Lambasa College. Madam Speaker, the reality is 69.4% of the population is below the age of 14. As we continuously say in these consultations, the youth really are the fire belly of this country. We need to empower them, not just in terms of giving them the right access to education, affordable education, research and training. We passed a bill yesterday of setting up a research council for them to be able to access grants, but also to empower them with the knowledge so they are better informed about the workings of any government, workings of the budget. So then when they listen to news, when they're able to make contributions in a few years' time, some of them will end up in this building. Some of them will become leaders outside in their companies or whatever it may be they may be doing, even in their homes. At least they'll have a better understanding, and all of that holistically will contribute to improving Fiji as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to the Honourable William Ngawako.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Honourable Minister spoke about TELS, and as you know, Madam Speaker, a lot of concern has been sown about TELS, which to us, the reality is that TELS is a huge burden. As you know, Madam Speaker, one of my motions this week that was disallowed was to consider ways to make TELS repayment less stressful. But that was not allowed. Let me ask this question then. How is government explaining the potential burden that people may carry with TELS for most of their working life? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. If that question is relevant to the initial question, you may provide an answer.
Madam Speaker, not directly linked to it, but I'll address it in any case. Madam Speaker, the honourable members from the other side forget, and in particular the leader of opposition, who is a former Minister of Education, forget that no other government has given TELS to the people of this region. No other government. You've opened up the door, I'll speak about it. No other government, Madam Speaker. No other government, Madam Speaker.
We have 600 scholarships.
No, we have 14,000 under TELS. 600 scholarships, 14,000 under TELS.
No other government, Madam Speaker, for example, has made education free from early childhood all the way to year 13. No other government. Fact. It's a fact. It's a fact. It's a fact. It's a fact. Obviously nobody read it because you only got 15 seats or 18 seats, whatever it is. Madam Speaker, the fact of the matter is this. No other government has done that. So we've got free education all the way to year 13. There are so many hundreds of Fijians who have said to us, we wish we had this in our time, at least I would have finished high school. At least I would have finished high school. Then, Madam Speaker, we have the confused toppers with TELS. Then, Madam Speaker, we have now on an open merit recruitment basis are offering scholarships of about 630 scholarships now. And these scholarships, Madam Speaker, are offered in the areas, subject areas that is of critical importance to Fiji. For example, we don't offer toppers for people to become lawyers. We have many lawyers, there's no shortage of it. There may be a shortage of good ones, but the fact of the matter is, Madam Speaker, but we have a lot of lawyers. Madam Speaker, but we have the toppers is skewered in the areas of science. We have a shortage of people in the areas of science, medicine, nursing, speech therapists, counsellors, pharmacists, engineers, all of those areas, a whole heap of land surveyors, town planners, veterinary science. It's skewered in that area. This is given to people, we pay for everything, all the expenses related to that, including accommodation, etc. Then, Madam Speaker, if a person cannot get the toppers and they cannot afford to pay the university fees, they can get what they call a tertiary education loan. Madam Speaker, the tertiary education loan is given to those students and we pay the university fees. They start paying that loan back, Madam Speaker, and the maximum interest rate, Madam Speaker, for a person who completes it is 1.5%. If a person comes from a low-income family, they don't pay any interest. And, Madam Speaker, they don't pay that loan as a lump sum. Madam Speaker, they pay that loan once only they start working and a payment arrangement is made. It's not for the rest of their lives. It's a ridiculous exaggeration. We are not similar to, for example, jurisdictions like USA, where they pay interest rate at commercial rates. This is precisely a particular program where people pay a maximum 1.5% should they finish their course, and only once they start working. And Madam Speaker, as we have seen, today now, I stand to be correct of the exact figures, but it's something like 14 to 15,000 students who are now being given assistance, Madam Speaker, with the TELS program. Madam Speaker, again, there are hundreds of thousands of people who've said to us, we wish We wish there was something similar to TELS. At least I could have gone to university. I came first, second or third in my class. And Madam Speaker.
Point of order, Madam Speaker.
Point of order.
I'd like to correct what the Honourable Minister for Economy had just mentioned about the...
Order. Point of order is directed at the Speaker. Speaker makes the correction.
That the Honourable Minister for Economy withdraw the statement.
Member. Can you just repeat what you have just said on the point of order?
Point of order is that what the Honourable Minister for Economy had mentioned in terms of the tertiary loan scheme not available is misleading, because before there is a student loan scheme available in the public service, and it was part of the scholarship system. So that comment or that remark by the Honourable Minister for Economy is misleading. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honourable Minister, would you like to clarify?
Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, the Honourable Member should listen carefully to what I said. I did not in any way neglect. I do not in any way neglect, Madam Speaker, what was done before. I said there is no such thing as TELS. Period. There is no such thing as TELS. You had scholarships, the PSC scholarship, you had scholarships being given on the basis of ethnicity before, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, there has been no other such scheme. The total combined number of people who were given assistance under the old scheme, and a lot of it was in a very haphazard manner. For example, the multi-ethnic scholarship, when they used to say scholarship was like a couple of $100. TELS actually pays for the entire fees. It's completely different. So let me get back to my main point, Madam Speaker. As I was saying, there have been literally hundreds, if not thousands of people who have said to us, we wish we had a TELS program or toppers program because we could have actually gone to university. They said we used to do really well in our schools. But Madam Speaker, they say our father or mother could not afford to send us to university. But today, he said, my children or grandchildren have that opportunity. So that is the reality, Madam Speaker. Some members from the other side, I heard them say, is burden. Yes. Madam Speaker, what is better? Is it better, Madam Speaker, for a person who finishes high school, manages to finish high school, because now they don't have to pay school fees? And let me remind you, Madam Speaker, we all talk about gender equality. All studies have shown that whenever parents had to make a choice between sending their children to school, if they have 5 children, and they could not afford to pay the school fees for all of them, guess who mainly got to stay at home? The women, the girls, because they were seen to be the ones who get married off. They don't recognize that. Guess what the parents had to do when they had to make a choice between sending the children to university? Guess who get to stay back at home? The girls. The women. It's a fact. It's a fact. You see, I've touched a raw nerve of that. Suddenly they're now thinking about all the women voters. But this is a fact, Madam Speaker. They don't like that. They don't like that. But that's a fact. All studies have shown. Go and look at all the studies. You need to do a lot more reading. And Madam Speaker, the reality is that today under this program, more students are being affected. Today under this program, we are empowering more and more of our youth, who will provide that intellectual input for this country to take it up to the next level, Madam Speaker. And the point that I was trying to make is, isn't it better that a person gets a tertiary qualification or even a technical qualification and have a small amount of loan that is not burdensome for them to be able to pay that, and they'll be able to pay better, because their salary levels will be a lot better, because they have a tertiary qualification. It is preposterous to say that is a burden.
It's a burden, because you have to pay.
Thank you. Honourable Leader of Opposition.
Supplementary question on the TELS issue, Madam Speaker. And this has been brought up by students and it has been highlighted in the media. Can the Minister explain why 200% penalty is there with the TELS defaulters, thus making it difficult for students and their parents to find loan guarantors. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, the substantive question is about budget consultations. And we've now opened up the door into TELS, talking about scholarships, about percentages, etc., Madam Speaker. We have, Madam Speaker, said in my introduction, you open up the door, not us. Madam Speaker, the member sitting behind you. Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, I know that. Madam Speaker, I know that. I know that. There's no denying of it. Madam Speaker, as we've said that a number of administrative issues have been raised by the students, and a lot of these issues will be addressed. As we've also had discussions, I said in my introductory remarks that we're having meetings with the Honourable Minister, we'll be having meetings with the TSLB board. A lot of it is administrative, there's some oversight in some of the areas, but of course they'll all be ironed out. And we are here continuously to improve that. It is a new scheme, and of course with any new scheme anywhere, you will have one or two flaws here and there, but the fact of the matter is it is a good scheme. And we continuously will seek to improve it. We'll continuously seek to ensure that it is not as burdensome as they're trying to make it out, but it'll be efficient. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Sergeant Rono.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Budget consultation is part and parcel of the administrative function of the Permanent Secretary and his staff. And according to the Constitution, 1273, and I quote, the Permanent Secretary of a Ministry is responsible to the Minister concerned for the efficient, effective, and economical management of the Ministry. So, Madam Speaker, can the Minister explain why is the Minister making it his responsibility and usurping the responsibilities of the Permanent Secretary in undertaking the budget consultation? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, the Honourable Randrondro is actually, unfortunately, showing her ignorance. She's reading 127, subsection 3 of the Constitution that talks about the administration of the ministry.
That's part of it.
Administration of the ministry. That has got nothing to do with public consultations. You see, Madam Speaker, the reality is this. They always come here and tell us that we're not democratic. This government is not democratic. This parliament is not democratic. We need to hear from members of the public. We need to hear their voices. When we are actually going out and doing that, they don't like that. They don't like that because suddenly the doors are open. Then they're quoting from 127.3 of the Constitution. When they hardly refer to it, they only refer to it when they suits them. But again, they get it wrong. You've got it wrong. It's about the administration of the ministry, Madam Speaker. In the same way, the administration of the Ministry of Agriculture, Defence, Forestry, Health, Labour, Fisheries, Education, Social Welfare is done by the permanent secretaries. We all know that. What interference is there, Madam Speaker? This is superfluous. You see, they're now clutching at straws. She's probably listening to her leader. You see, her leader is caught in a time warp. Her leader who's outside Parliament is caught in a time warp, not the Honourable Leader of Opposition. Not the Honourable Leader of Opposition. It's a fact. She's just resounding that. At least you should listen to the Honourable Leader of Opposition, not the leader outside. The leader outside is taking you back to the 1990s. They're taking you back to the 1990s when the demographics were different, when they did not do consultations. We are doing consultations, Madam Speaker. The Permanent Secretary for Economy last week met up with all the permanent secretaries with all the different ministries. She's doing her administrative side of the budget. We will then again, Madam Speaker, apart from these budget consultations, and I've actually got in the program here, apart from that, Madam Speaker, from the 18th to the 21st of April, Madam Speaker, because the first round actually has taken place. Now, the first round Permanent Secretary of Economy with the ministries, 18th to the 21st of April. She's doing that. we are doing the public consultations. Again, Madam Speaker, from the 15th to the 18th of May, the ministers, together with their permanent secretaries, will then come and meet the Minister of Economy and the Permanent Secretary of Economy, and we do a second round of the administrative side. This is the extensive level of consultations that we are taking place. Unfortunately, Honorable Randondro is like a leader caught in a time warp, and unfortunately, Madam Speaker, she does not realize that when she quotes from the Constitution, she needs to be legally correct. This rutting of interference is in fact, Madam Speaker, a thorn in their side. It's a thorn in their side because they don't want us to go and talk to the members of the public. Contradictorily, they talk about democracy.
Point of order. Supplementary question.
Madam Speaker, for the benefit of the students who are sitting in the gallery, can the minister please explain? Please listen to me. You are not listening. There's a problem. Let me restart, Madam Speaker. For the benefit of the students sitting in the gallery, can the minister please explain why it is important for students to actively participate in these budget consultations?
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, I think I've sort of answered this question earlier on, but I will further elucidate. Madam Speaker, just to reiterate, it's critically important for the youth of our country to be able to be empowered with the knowledge regarding government processes. Madam Speaker, it is critically important. As I said, 69.4% of the population of this country is below the age of 40. Madam Speaker, we also, as Honourable Randondro always goes on about, Honourable Salote Randondro, that we have a development plan in place, Madam Speaker. And as we've said the other day, we're going to get the development plan climate sensitized. In the same way, Madam Speaker, when we eke out a 20-year development plan, we need to be able to be aware as to what will happen to Fiji in the demographics in 30 years' time. These youth that constitute nearly 70% of the population, in 30 years' time will be the older generation. So our ability to address their issues and their challenges when they're in the 50s and 60s obviously needs to be quite different. So they will also at the same time, Madam Speaker, be the people who will drive this country. If they are from this age, educated and knowledgeable about how the economy works, how the budgetary process works, they have a say in it, they not only feel like they're part of society, part of administrative making or decision making, they also, Madam Speaker, will have the right level of knowledge and exposure to be able to make those decisions themselves when they take up positions of leadership. And hopefully, then we have a better caliber of members of this House also in the future. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Noikula.
The students who are at the gallery. What answer did the Honourable Minister give, or will he give to the students who want free tuition at tertiary and the university level?
Would you like to repeat your question?
What answer did he give, or will he give to students who want free tuition at tertiary and university level?
Madam Speaker, none of the students so far have asked us that. Honourable Nawakula is not a student. One may think he is sometimes, but Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, but Madam Speaker, you know, it is one of the most enlightening experiences in these budget consultations is to see the level of wisdom that actually exists with many of these young people of our country. They do not make those kind of very flagrant comments as Honourable Nawaikula is doing. They actually understand how a government, any government with limited resources, needs to balance all the different priority areas. They understand that, Madam Speaker. And the examples that we do have, in the same way that we talk about the budget for a house, that when you actually have a budget for your house, you need to be able to give priorities to different areas depending on how your house is at that moment constituted. You may give priorities to certain areas because they will further the welfare of your house. Other times you'll give priority to other areas. But it's all about a balancing act. And Madam Speaker, that balancing act and the ability to appreciate that is a lot better in terms of that understanding by our youth than Honorable Nawaikula is demonstrating today.
Thank you. We'll now move on to the next question.